Let's get into this week's email bag. You can email info@davidpakman.com if you have a question, comment, suggestion, correction, whatever, really. It's all welcome as long as it's respectful. Let's get right into the first one. Linda wrote in about something I said about the Noah's Ark story last week. Last week I said, I struggle with some of these stories and fail to get answers when I say, well, if there were two of every animal, you had every kind of bird and every kind of insect. And, we're talking about millions of species. How is that possible? Or what did the carnivorous animals eat or whatever, right? And Linda wrote in and said, actually, Linda and or John, it says both names. And they say, according to Genesis 1:29, mankind and animals were originally vegetarians. The food was put in the ark per 6:22, and in 9:1 through 5, after they landed, God instituted a new covenant and the eating of meat. This is the type of thing that I'm kind of talking about, because there's always some explanation, but it doesn't actually make any scientific sense. So, like, for example, in this case, the animals were vegetarian at the time of Noah's Ark, and then the animals started to eat meat. Others will say, well, actually, really, God's will and direction really only applies to humans, not to animals. So now God is directing what animals eat. The other counterpoint would be, well, if this all happened in the last 5,000 or 6,000 years, there is, number one, no evidence that currently carnivorous animals were ever vegetarian. And if the idea is they evolved from being vegetarian to being carnivorous, 5,000 years is not nearly enough time for that to happen to all of those species. So that also doesn't make sense. But I get that they don't believe in the evolution piece anyway. So it all doesn't make sense. Another email said, well, on Noah's Ark, they were eating pickled and dried meats. The carnivorous animals ate pickled and dried meats, and that's why the issue of the animals that were alive being eaten isn't an issue. Well, but there's no evidence of that. Another one was they were all eating fish eggs. I've not seen any evidence of that. The other one I got was, there were two of each main species. So like there were just two snakes. And then later, those two snakes became all the subspecies. Maybe that would be plausible if we were talking about millions of years or longer. But if this all supposedly happened in 5,000 or 6,000 years, that doesn't make any sense. So the point here is they'll always come up with something, but there's no evidence for any of the stuff. And at a certain point, you have to say, well, what do I accept as evidence? And I've still not seen any convincing explanation of the Noah's Ark story. Okay, next is Michael. Michael wrote in about people who don't talk politics. Michael says there's people on the right and left, but mainly the right, who simply don't talk politics. Is there a way to convince them why they need to get out and vote these radical conservatives out? I think many of them are Republicans because it's passed down. So yes, there's lots of people that are Republicans because they come from a Republican family. In my experience, the best way to get people who aren't into politics to follow politics is to say to them, okay, I get it. You don't care about politics. You don't care about news. It's boring. You're just not interested. I totally get that. That makes sense. There's so many things that what we can pay attention to. Tell me, what matters to you? And they go, well, I don't know. I like sports and car driving or whatever else. And I go, no, I understand that. But you must think there's some problems in the world, either in your immediate community or with government or with, there must be some problem. And they go, well, yeah, I mean, I really hate it that, I don't know, whatever, right? Something related to climate or something related to a law or legislation, regulation of their business, whatever. You go, well, you might not care about politics, but other people then are deciding how your business is regulated. Other people are deciding how your immediate parks that are around you are being taken care of or not taken care of. So the point here is people who aren't into politics usually still have opinions about the world around them. And it's about just explaining to them that it's the political system that will impact what happens. And that will often work to get people to say, oh, I didn't realize that this thing I care about actually is politics. And I should be paying attention and I should be involved. Give it a shot. Let me know how it works. Ozan wrote in saying about Clarence Thomas, David, sir, whatever happened to the Ginny Thomas story? The media seems to have lost interest in it. If this were a more liberal judge in a similar situation, it's easy for me to see the mainstream media and Fox mentioning the story constantly for days on end. I would love to hear your thoughts. On another note, I've been a member over a year now and love what you do. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. Thank you. So we have a situation where like every week there's a pretty major scandal. During the Trump presidency, it was basically every other day, but now every week or every couple of weeks, there's some big story. We find out something crazy that Mark Meadows did or Ginny Thomas did or whatever. Ginny Thomas was quite involved as a supporter of the January 6th festivities. And the story has basically gone away. And I think it's just an information overload type of thing. It's two things. Right-wing media won't even talk about it. And then in addition, even we on the left and independent media, we also have so many things to talk about that we can't keep every story in the forefront all the time. That's why it's good to have lots of independent media outlets, some that specialize on legal stories, some that specialize in whatever. But you're completely right. The story's kind of gone and it may be gone forever. Last week, I asked about who's more dangerous in a cult, and the cult is Trumpism, the true believers or the false believers who go, yeah, the election was stolen, but they don't really believe it, but they say it to be part of the team. Silver wrote in and said, David, I believe the false believers are worse. It's similar to my understanding of the difference between a drug addict and a narcissist. In other words, the drug addict displays narcissistic behavior, but is either unaware or does so to get a fix. The narcissist, likewise, knows their manipulative behavior pattern, but they don't care. It is definitely a difficult question, but I believe of the two, that the one who knows their actions could possibly be the worst of the two is the worst one. So if I understand correctly, what Silver is saying is the false believers don't even believe this stuff, but still repeat it knowing that its effect could be destructive and that thus they are worse. Whereas the true believer, in the case of the big lie, thinks, no, the election was really stolen, so that's something we have to fix, and therefore they are less pernicious. I could be convinced of that. There's definitely some logic to that. Yeah, no, that makes some sense. Canadian Paul wrote in about the Republican recently suggesting Fauci be killed by firing squad, writing in stochastic Fauci firing squad. Sir, I would like to add another consideration to your coverage of the PUYASO. I don't know what that acronym is. John Bennett and his suggestion that Dr. Fauci should face a firing squad. I believe this to be the least common form of execution today, but it was used quite intentionally. Of the 74 million Republican Trump voters, how many have a gas chamber in their basement, an electric chair in their living room, or the chemistry background to administer a lethal injection? Now, how many have a gun? Keep up the great work. I think the point that Canadian Paul is talking about here is, if you want to get Fauci killed and you go, Fauci should be sent to the electric chair. Most Trumpists don't have an electric chair in their basement. Maybe some do, but most don't. They don't have the means to do the thing that's being suggested. But many Trumpists have a gun. And that's why he said firing squad. That Canadian Paul may be onto something. It may not have been an accident that the term firing squad was used. Steve wrote in about the pandemic, and Steve says, do you really think states are honestly reporting COVID cases? I don't for 1 second think the reports are honest from all states, not even close. So the answer is no, but there's two parts to this. One, are there states that are deliberately hiding COVID cases at this point? Maybe. I mean, listen, probably. There's 50 states. You could probably find an example of some official somewhere who is limiting the higher numbers from being published. It's probably true. The bigger issue is now a lot of people who have symptoms don't even get tested. So they just don't show up in the numbers. And a lot of people who do a home test and test positive never report it. And so, of course, the numbers are lower. I'm still hearing some reports that say the real case numbers are 2 to 3 times higher than what is being reported. but it's not necessarily because the numbers are being lied about. It's people are testing at home or not testing, and none of that ever makes it into the case numbers. Next email is about Dan Bongino and my pronunciation. Dan Bongino, you disappointed me. Hi, David. I love your show. Keep up the great work. Started watching your show a few months ago because you're fair and you explain things with data. You disappointed me when you pronounced Dan Bongino's name incorrectly. The I is pronounced as a long E and not an I. Bongino. I only bring this up because you go on all the people that pronounced the new Supreme Court nominee's name incorrectly, which is great, and I agree with you 100%. To paraphrase you said something like, come on, guys, get the name right. You actually said maybe they're doing it on purpose. Maybe they don't know how to pronounce it. You did the exact same thing with Dan Bongino. So, David, were you making fun of Dan's name? Or did you really not know how to pronounce it? I'm sure a lot in the audience, as I do, await your answer. Keep up the great work. What do you guys think? Do you guys think I know it's not pronounced Bongino? Do you think I know it's not pronounced Tulsi Gabbard? You think I know it's not pronounced Jimmy Dore? Let me know. Let me know. I think the answer will become very evident. Philip wrote in a quick correction. And this, I love this. I love being corrected on this stuff. We talked about the betting odds for candidates. You can go on the website, predict it, and you can bet monies who will be the Republican nominee. You can bet on anything you want. And Philip wrote in and said, David, you described it as 70 cents of every dollar bet to describe the process of betting using the predicted prediction markets. In reality, the prices are the cost of a contract that settles at either a dollar or nothing, not the amount of every dollar bet on that market. It's the cost of a contract, not the volume. Might be pedantic, but I know David values accuracy. No, I appreciate that. When you go on to predict it, it'll say, for example, 70 cents next to Donald Trump. I wrongly said that means 70 cents, 70% of the dollars bet are being bet on Trump being the nominee. That's wrong. But I think if I understand correctly, you have to bet 70 cents to end up making a dollar because it's relatively likely that it will be Trump. Whereas on a long shot candidate, you might only have to bet 5 cents to make a dollar if you're right. I think that that's the correct way. I'm not a big betting guy, but I appreciate the correction. Okay, lastly, and guys, this is just an instructive thing on things I can't do. Sunday night, Owen wrote to me and said, hey, David, I'm late on a part that's due for my paper. It's a persuasive essay. We could choose any topic. So I chose why corporate money should be taken out of politics. I need counter arguments to that point. I was wondering if you knew any to make it easier on me. Guys, I can't help you with your homework, okay? You would be surprised at how often I get stuff like this. You got to do your own work. I can't. Number one, this was due the next day. Even if you thought I could help you with your homework, if you email me Sunday night for Monday homework, I obviously can't help you. Number two, I don't have the ability or wherewithal and resources to respond to the emails that I get. And number three, do your own work, Owen, please. This is a very important life lesson. Do your own work. I'm begging you. All right, we have a great bonus show for you today. Sign up at joinpakman.com. You'll get instant access. It'll be a beautiful thing. You can use the coupon code OBAMNA. Remember that OBAMNA?
Obama.
Yeah. You can use that as a coupon code to get a discount when you sign up. And we'll see you on the bonus show.